Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Huddle, your weekly podcast where we come on here and try and learn you something and learn something at the same time, because
It's
that's
your
what we're here
weekly
for.
playbook to help you
Uh,
find success in your flooring career. That's what it's for, bro.
or any career, right?
Yeah, any career. Pretty sure it applies. You replace flooring with something else and it'll apply.
Business is business.
Get with it.
So before we get started, I do want to thank the sponsors. So Divergent Adhesives, they got some great adhesives. We've used them in some of our classes, and yeah, I mean,
We're using on some of
everyone.
our projects too, though, right? We've
Yeah,
been
we have.
fortunate to
I
have
mean,
them on our
we
projects.
used it in our office, so
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, 100%. We did. I have it all documented too.
so
Thank you,
make
Sonny.
sure you're when you're looking for some adhesives, you check out Divergent Adhesives because they're amazing. And the NAFCT, um, you've been to a couple classes with the NAFCT. I
Yep.
do mine, and then also the subfloor and substrate one, which that one is worth it if you have not tried it. I mean, just the science behind before anything goes on the floor is amazing.
Well, let's look at the title of today's episode, right? And it kind of ties in with the NAFCT and what they do, right? They I don't want to say there was conflict or anything like that, right? Or avoiding conflict. It's just they're leaders in their respected industries, and they were willing to take the risk of creating conflict in order to get another training out there, another certification for installers. So it kind of ties right in, not directly, but it does tie in.
Right. And I do want to apologize for being late. That's my fault. I was at a pre-bid and I rushed here. Like the highway was so backed up. I probably would have only taken like 15 minutes, but it was like 10 or 15 minutes longer than it should have been because of traffic.
It's all good. We didn't even think you were going to be here. We were like, oh, Daniel usually does this. All right, let me see if we can figure this out. And then you just popped in. What's up? Like, oh, okay, we'll wait a couple minutes.
It's what I do.
So today's topic is when leadership avoids conflict, everyone pays for
And it's
it.
true. I mean, it's having those tough conversations. If you listen to any business audiobook, there's a big focus on that in general is having those tough conversations and being able to just talk it out. And I think like it is tough because even with us, it's the approach, I think.
It's well, you're right. It is the approach, right? Some people are more sensitive to certain subjects than others. Some people will always feel attacked rather than you building them up. But at the end of the day, you have to think about what's best overall, right? You don't, and us as business owners, we don't always put the business first. We don't always put the the employees first. We for sure don't always put ourselves first. Um, but we try to think long term. We try to do our best to take care of any potential issues before they become issues. Are we successful? Nope. Look, it's like water. All the faults will find a weak point
A
and
weak
exploit
point.
it. Yep, and it will be exploited. But um, the conversation, the hardest part about it is to start the conversation. You already know if leadership has to have a conversation or a discussion, or you know what's going south, you know what's not going great, you know what could be better. Um, the hardest part is starting the conversation.
Yeah, and
Um,
by the time you have to have a conversation, I think both sides should have an idea that there needs to be something talked about. And the thing is that it just has to start on one side or the other.
yeah, and well, let's break this down, Daniel. When we're talking leadership and avoiding conflict, let's start where we started, right? Let's start from an installer perspective as an employee or a sub. And we can go on from there because there's different perspectives that we're going to have to entertain through this whole thing. It's not just the top on the business side, right? Because there's many things there. And I'll start like when I was installing and I was just learning there. I think there was a lack of leadership when I started, and I just kind of assumed the role, but I didn't have a conversation about assuming it. I just said, all right, this needs to be done. Hey guys, do this. Hey, we need to do that. Can you do this? And it wasn't me trying to be a boss. It was just me trying to be organized and get things done, right? So that way I felt like we were doing what was best for that project that day, that week. And then it just kind of led into, all right, you're in charge. Um, but I never had the conversation with my leadership saying that what we were lacking. I just kind of filled that void, and then it became an expectation instead of a conversation. Um, but that's my start with it. That's my first example of learning how to have a conversation. That was me having a conversation with leadership versus leadership um, avoiding conflict by starting it. Um, Conflict could have been avoided though because I did ruffle some feathers in assuming that because I was the youngest person working with a bunch of 30 and 40-year olds. And I was 20, 20 years old, 18, 19, 20. It didn't really go over that well. And they just like, oh, you think you're just going to come in and be my boss? I don't want to be. Like, no, I don't want to be. I don't think you guys understand.
Well, and that's where over the years too, we've come to realize that there's people that are meant for that role and people that just are not.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it doesn't even matter if you were better than them or not at that point. You had the necessary skills in order to lead, so that's why you get put in these positions.
Yeah, everywhere I went. And I should have known, but everywhere I worked, I had a lot of jobs as a teenager. Let me just start. I worked every summer, every day, wherever. As soon as I could get a paycheck, hourly, I had a job ever since. So 12 years old on. But everywhere I went, they always did that to me. And I did hate it when I was young, but appreciated all the mentorship from everybody else who believed in me when I was younger. Made me believe in myself, I guess, but even though I didn't want to do any of it, it still happened.
I mean, that's the thing. It's when you're talking mentors, that's what a mentor is for, is to put you in positions that you didn't even realize or you didn't even want, and that's what they're there for, right? That's a true leader right there is creating other leaders.
But isn't that what you want to do, right? Like to me, I think you want to do that. You want to have the hard conversations so that way people can think for themselves, solve for themselves, troubleshoot um, for themselves. That like I feel like that. I know not everybody does, and everybody has that drive, like you said, but you don't know until you have a conversation, I guess, right?
Hmm. Well, you don't know until someone puts you in that situation.
Well, there's that too. But you got on that one, Daniel.
I think like you were talking about us in the beginning, and I mean even right now, and we tell you guys all the time on the podcast, it's getting things in place in order to have these conversations because I guess it doesn't even matter how big you are, right? It's just how, I guess, strong the business is or how advanced the business is. You have to have things in place when you need to have these conversations because you can't do what you've always done. And you and I
Dude,
have conflicting ideas about this all the time when it's,
I know. I'm
but
still a
you
little
can't
old
just,
school.
yeah, you can't just do things the way you've always done them because there's a process that has to happen and things have to be documented a certain way in order to make it right, make it, I guess, legal, I could
In order
say.
to cover your bases, yeah, in order to cover your bases because of all the policies that are put into place by, your county, township, state, federal, like the that's a whole nother conversation. So I won't even get into it. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
you're
yeah,
you're
we
right.
can do an entire podcast probably about like employee handbooks and policies, and that's probably would be a good podcast.
Yeah, every state a little bit different, but every state deals with their own stuff. And you know what? That's a room full of leaders causing conflict too, right? That promotes growth. Um, I guess that is the benefit of it is those conversations that everyone avoids when they do have them. It is for the better, right? And sometimes it might seem for the worse, but it is for the better. Nobody likes to have the hard conversations and then everything dissolves, right? But it might build you, it might break you, but either way it goes, it puts everything in the places they're supposed to be and back on track, in my opinion, anyway. But it doesn't always happen that way right away.
No, but it is. It's hard to have these conversations, and especially lately when you're not set up to have them yet. So you have to kind of scramble in order to get things set up, and then but you also don't want to put it off too long to where it's not relevant anymore, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where I get all like, we gotta wait. Well, we gotta get this together. We have to have all this. Well, let's just do it right now. Old school. I don't know. If there's anybody listening right now, or anybody out there that can comment and give us some feedback or some scenarios that they've dealt with, that'd be phenomenal because we're still learning, right? And I want to learn from everybody else who has similar or even different experiences, so that way we can help find resolve for people who are afraid to talk too much, or don't approach it with the right process.
Well, Rollins says that work is easy compared to sitting down your kids and having a talk. I guess depends on what it is, because I don't know. I don't really have an issue talking to my kids about stuff, but they're just easy like that. Like it's open communication at my house, and some people think that it's weird, but I mean, I will roll up around all the other parents at the school and start flipping my kids off and but that's
Well,
just the relationship we have, right? We can be open and especially, I mean, with Tanya, Tanya can probably have those conversations better than I could, like, at least like the harder conversations or the I'm worried about this or I think I messed this up type of stuff before they come to me because she just has that motherly love, that nurturing side to where if you
yeah.
talk to me, I'm just there's a problem, here's the solution, how are we going to get there?
Well, that's in our nature, in the guy's nature, right? Is to present solutions, right? Because when someone is presenting an issue, you want to help them solve it. Because I think it takes practice to be an open ear and to listen to absorb
Yeah.
it.
And
Um,
you know, I can learn a lot from the way that she does things and I do. Um because even in these leadership books, that's what they talk a lot about too, is you kind of have to look at things like we talk about Simon Sinek a lot, right? And that's his whole thing is looking at the other person and what's going on with them. And sometimes these hard conversations can become easier because you don't look at it like, why are you late every single day this week? Instead of, approaching it like that, it's you've been late every single day this week. What's going on? Like, do you need to talk about something? And it's it's hard. It's hard and it's not at the same time in a leadership position because sometimes you do get a little riled up, and that's why sometimes it's easier to push that off. And we get this from sports, right? The 24-hour rule is like, not gonna say anything right now because I know I'm gonna have an attitude. So I'm gonna put it off for a little bit so I can actually think about what's gonna come out of my mouth.
Um, that sounds like a good plan. Sometimes it's hard for me to exercise that, right? And I guess it depends on how repetitive the issues are. Is it something you've already talked about a dozen times? Is it something you've only mentioned one time, um, or you haven't asked the right questions and found out what's going on, right? But I try to be. So apparently, I'm not an approachable person when it comes to some things, which I try to be, right? But just I like to use the details and the facts and not a lot of feeling, right? Like you were talking, like I know that that's a muscle, but I think they're already, in my opinion, people are already getting the conversation of the feelings from everyone else. Someone's got to be the tough love person. I do kind of feel like that's always been kind of my role. Um,
And that's what you need. Like, you still need that pushback, right? Going back to the mentorship, it's mentors don't tell you what you want to hear. They tell you
to yeah, what you
what you
need to
need to
hear.
hear.
Yeah, and I don't know, dude. I just can't be the one to tell people what they want to hear, but I can congratulate them and say, "Hey, thank you," and that what they're giving me is valuable information, and we can have conversations like that. I don't mind any of that. It's just when you ask me a direct question, I try to be as direct with my answer as possible, and sometimes the answer isn't what they were fishing for.
Right.
Um,
Rollins says about the kids, it says, "Oh, sure," in walks a guy taking your daughter out, and you have to talk to him. But my daughter plays softball, so a lot of
so
people probably won't get that reference, but
uh, he's saying she might drive a Subaru later. That's all.
Ashlyn says rainbows.
um, I don't know about that. Like, so I've Rollin, just so you know, like I do play conversations in my head before they happen, right? In my head, a lot of conversations, whether it's at work, at home, they go pretty good in my head, and I have multiple variations of that conversation. Um, but the reaction and the way someone is absorbing information um, kind of dictates how that conversation goes, whether it's personal at home or with the kids or at work. Um, the way that they want to react or feel they react, it kind of drives um, the energy of that conversation. And sometimes it's like, whoa, let's slow down. This is not right. Like, this is not where the conversation is supposed to go or how I envisioned it. Um, but if you're trying to have a conversation where you're already fed up with something and you're already upset because of all the negatives, it's easier for both parties to go into that type of energy. Um,
I think it's a culture thing too. It's the same way, you raise your kids at home and you gotta foster that we can talk about anything type of deal. And it's the same thing in the business too, where it's that open door policy, right? It's like I I end every meeting that we have with, does anyone have anything else? Like it's open floor. Like there's, I know I'm not perfect. What can I do better? Right? It's, I'm not just talking about the wins or what's wrong with everyone else. It's like, what can I do better as leadership, and letting them know that if there's any issues on their end too, that they can come over and talk to us.
Yeah. This is where my old school thing kicks in, right? Like, yeah, what can we do better, you guys? If we want to be better for you guys, but don't let that conversation lead to where what can we do to provide for you without you really trying to help us too. Like, can't make it all one way, and that's where I have a hard time with some of the things that we do and help out with. It's always give, 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 and I just don't like to feel like that. And that's where I start getting upset and having, because I can see it, and I've dealt with people like that my whole life. Um,
Right.
so, and it's just one of those things where I do probably get a little more animated in some of those meetings than I need to be, but sometimes people need to hear it. Like, dude, we're not your contingency. You're an adult. You should be able to get to and from. You should be
Right.
able to make your own phone calls. That's not necessarily a leadership thing, right? And I might be going off track with the conversation, but still the conversation that needs to be had so to avoid the conflict. It's, hey, I'm going through some things right now. This is where I'm at. This is where I know I'm going to have some struggles. Um, I just want to bring it up to you
Jeremy
guys.
says more Taco Tuesdays, but
Jeremy, you
he's
have too many Taco Tuesdays.
no, you're right. It's conversations can't be led by, I need this, right? And it, I feel like with some people, it's always like, I need this, I need this, I need this, and then you come back with them with something like, okay, well, you're telling me that you need this, but we've talked about these things already, and there's no production on your side. But every time you talk, you're like, need, and it's like, I can't be held liable for your choices that you've made.
Yep. Those are the
Again,
hard conversations.
it,
But
that is a hard conversation because, again, you don't know what people are going through in their personal lives. All you know is the conversations that you have, right? So until you start having those conversations, and that's where, as a mentor, it's like, well, we can talk about it. I'm not saying that we can't get to where you want to get to, but we can talk about what it's going to take in order for you to get there.
sometimes the journey is going to take a little bit longer than what people are willing to accept. And sometimes that conversation is going to be a lot harder than what people are willing to put themselves through.
And
But
that's part of what we're dealing with today, as far as like the new generations, right? Because it was, everyone hated millennials, and then everyone hated Gen Z, and now Gen Alpha is starting to enter the workforce, and it's like, okay, well, I've listened to some leadership podcasts where people are like, this is the generation where you do have to start rewarding them before they do anything, because, and you'll love this one, right? It's the participation trophy type of stuff, where they think that they're going to enter and they're automatically going to be at a certain spot, where you have to go back to kind of like the boomers and the Gen X, where it was, I'm going to work and prove myself so that way we can get to a certain point. Now it's like, put me in that spot and then I'll work hard.
This is me practicing being quiet about that stuff because it's just not
But I mean, it is. It's the world we live in, and it just it sucks because it's not just that generation that's doing it now. It's kind of
it's bleeding
trickling
over.
in everywhere.
Yeah, it's bleeding over. Um, and I just look, I have these conversations with my son quite a bit, right? 13 years old, and I and when he was young, the conversations I have the hard conversations early on with him about it, and when he was younger, I just told him when he was asking me for things, Dad, can I have this? Can I have that? Can you buy me this? I'm like, well, hold on, dude. It's going about this all wrong. I said, you keep asking me for things, but you're not talking about what you're bringing to the table, right? And this is a little kid. Why don't you go do these things without me having to ask you, and then come and ask me? Make it hard for me to tell you no. Make it hard for me to tell you that you don't deserve that. And that little bastard, he does that. He makes it hard for me to tell him no for the things that he wants. Although the things that he wants compared to the things that are really affordable are like, tell Dad, I really want this camera. How much is it? $2,000 for a camera? Dude, you can't even make it through 3 months without cracking the screen on your phone, bro. How are you gonna take it? Right.
Right, and Jeremy
So
just says what we were just saying too. They expect the employer to cater to their needs and wants before they even prove they're worth it. And it's kind of what we've been dealing with. I mean, like not to poop on my friends list on Facebook, but I've seen way too many posts that have been um and it's typically always the same people. It's I need a job, who's hiring?
but I
And
need
then
to
they
make
come
this much
back
money.
with I need to make X amount of money per hour. And it's like, man, like you're looking at entry level positions. Like you think that just because you've been in the workforce in this spot for so long that you can transfer that over to anywhere, but that's just not the case. It's you don't make a lateral move unless it's the same industry, really, right? You
Yeah.
can't go from all right, I'm making, $20 an hour over here to all right, I want to start with you guys, but I need to make more than I was already making when I was
To
at
make up
that
for the
job
time I haven't
for
been working. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's well, got to be realistic, and that's where those conversations though are easier. The harder conversations are easier up front before you create a history, right? Um, because if you create a history without expectations, then those harder conversations become extremely hard.
Yeah, Jorge
Um,
says you gotta start all over, and it's just people again. That's one of and it's not even an employee at this point, right? It's just someone that is looking for a job, but it's still a hard conversation. And I've had to tell guys that have came in here and asked um for work. They're like you better be a star child to better pay
to get better pay.
to get better pay.
Yeah. Um,
But I mean, there's been guys that have come in here and they're like, looking for a job, and I'm like, well, what are you looking for? Are you looking for, employment, or are you looking to be a contractor? And a majority of the time, they're done with trying to find their own work, so they're like, I'm looking for employment, and I'm like, all right, well, what do you have? What do you have experience in? Everything. That's what everyone says. Everything. Okay, so you can do this? Oh no, I've never done that. Okay, but you can do this? No, I don't do that either. Okay, so you can't do everything. Well, how much are you looking to make? And then they base it based on working for themselves for all those years, and they
mhm,
put the same number on the paper as they were making for themselves, and it's like that's where you can really tell when someone was not necessarily a business owner, even though they may have owned their own business.
mhm.
They were just had that job, right? They owned a job, and they're trying to transfer all that over when in reality it's, man, look at just the expenses in general.
Oh, dude, they're going through the roof. I mean, it's hard, right? And going back and saying I want this much money an hour to knowing what we pay per hour to match to have an employee, like, man, I wasn't that greedy at all. You know what I mean? But the way people are approaching now, like, it's like kind of hurts. Like, damn, did I didn't value myself. You know, I had this conversation with Emilio earlier today, right before he left to football. He was like, "Hey, since I'm helping, how much am I getting paid an hour?" I'm like, "Why are you asking me? Why?" I said, "Better go ask your other uncle." And he was like, "Well, I don't know how much I'm getting paid." I'm like, "Well, how much are you worth? Like, what can you do right now? How much are you worth?" He was like, "I don't know. I don't know how to do any of this." I said, "So you don't have a value yet?" I said, "Well, then you're at least making minimum wage." He just looked at me. I said, "How about you figure out what you're worth, and then ask that question, right?" Like, he was like,
Right?
"Okay." And
Hoda says like, "Here, young man, try this table saw. You know how to do it. Getting paid good, baby."
yeah, and I said, "Well, maybe you're worth." I said, "Would you like to make $100 a week?" He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, so if I pay you $20 an hour, but you're only worth 5 hours a week to me, is that your value?" He was like, "No, I want to work more than that." I said, "You want to work more than $20 an hour or more than $100 a week?" He was like, "I don't know. I don't know how to answer that." I'm like, "Find out your value, and then we'll have a conversation. You'll know. By the end of the week, he'll have an idea of what they're doing and if they're making good progress. They're not dumb, but he's also my nephew, and I won't lie to him, and I won't. I just want him to come to me with his information and his perception, right? Because if I start planting those seeds, then that's what he's going to come back with, the stuff that
Right.
I gave him to tell me. I just want him to tell me himself.
Jeremy says, pull out the box and make them prove it. And we've actually talked to someone that said that this is what they do, and they will actually pay the person if they install it right. They were like, all right, go out here and show me what you can do. And then once they're done, they get paid for their time that day, um, and come on as an employee. But the issue is that people just don't show up to keep on doing it. Like, you can be like, all right, come back tomorrow and install this box right here. And to get someone, even when he says I'll compensate you for your time, they just don't show back up.
Jeremy, I paid your son to bag my leaves. He missed a lot of spots.
And you made him
I
go back and do it right.
I did. I did. It wasn't. Look, I don't mind my son wanting to earn his own funds, right, and wanting to help. He he wants to help and he wants to earn at the same time, right? That's a great combination. And I'm not gonna dismiss that part of him. So yeah, but it's like, dude, you got to go back and you got to make sure that when you walk away, you're doing a job. Like, no matter what you do in your career, you want to be complete, and you want to make sure that you're happy with it and they're happy with it. Sometimes nobody's happy. Sometimes only one side's happy. But um, I think my son felt like he was in a rush because we were dropping him off and picking him up, right? That wasn't me that was picking him up, making him feel in a rush. But use your time wisely. If you're there with enough time to do the job right, and you leave and it's still not done right, sometimes you got to go back.
Said he's a worker. He is a worker. I think, is he? Oh, he had to go to practice, didn't he?
No, no, they got all changed. He came back with the other Vatos with your son and Emilio, um, because they were almost done what they had to do anyway. But he would have been at the separate building all by himself.
Let's start at how good can you scrub our facility toilets? The crazy thing is we
I can
had to
scrub
have
'em
a
pretty good, bro.
conversation with our employees about that because it's like, who do you think cleans this toilet, man? You think it just magically gets cleaned? No, if I'm gonna make a mess, I'm gonna clean after myself. You should do the same thing.
As a joint effort to keep the office clean, right? To keep the warehouse organized is a joint effort. Sometimes, sometimes you got to have that conversation about doing your part. Crap, look, our mother helps take care of the warehouse, right? Like the warehouse is a lot bigger than what we're used to having, and she'll put on there and put pictures. Who put this here? That's not where it goes. I need you to put that back.
And
I
again,
need,
that's also a leadership thing, right? Because we still don't have things set in stone on where everything goes. I mean, she does, and she labels everything, so it should be foolproof, but there's still things that need to be done. Um, and
yeah,
that's the hard thing with leadership is that especially when you're as small as we are, it's we're trying to do everything and there's just not enough of us to go around.
not enough time in the day to tackle all the tasks. That's for sure. Trying to
And
find balance.
one of the things with these hard conversations is that people need to realize that accountability isn't punishment. That's one of our things that we talk about every week, right? It's you got to hold yourself accountable for these things, and it's not you can't. And we combated this for a long time, where something happens on a job site, and it's always, well, this person this or this person that, or uh, I told this person that they were supposed to do it, and it's like, okay, well, did you go check on it? No. It's like, well, that's the thing, man. It's like it's someone has to hold that, right? It's someone's job already. And if they tell someone else to do it, doesn't mean that it's not their job to make sure that it's not that it's done.
Yeah, that's those are some of the those conversations, right? That avoid the conflict. Like, hey, I am giving this is your task list. If you delegate some of this list, you're still responsible for it, right? Like this is
That someone
yours,
someone still owns that.
right? This is yours. I'm giving it to you. How you separate it is on you, but you're still responsible for it at the end of the day, right? List out, list in. It's still got to filter through the same main point of contact, and can't be like, well, I gave them those three things to do. Like you said, not my fault they
Yeah.
didn't do their job. Well, but your job
And
was to make sure everything on that list was done, so you're not doing yours either.
yeah, and when I was running cruises, the same thing. I was running, big jobs, and it's like, all right, well, at the end of the day, I'm gonna walk through and make sure everything is good. And if it's not, and that's where people probably hated me because I don't care what time it is. Hey, this was supposed to be done. It ain't done right. Bust the tools back out. I don't care if they're on the van.
Dude, you just remind me about what people used to say, and Jeremy might be able to attest to this, that at the end of the day, if they didn't put the tools back in the right spot,
Oh yeah.
I was empty in the van. Nope, everything out. Oh, but I got it. I don't care. You should have put it back in the right spot, bro. Everything out. That doesn't happen anymore. I can tell you that just by looking in the vans.
Right.
But
And that's the thing too, is that the more and more you have these conversations, the easier they get to. Um, it's not just I put it in terms of like sometimes people are like they see a phone call come through and they're like, oh man, like maybe it's a job that you just did, and the GC
dude,
or the homeowner's calling you, and it's like, oh man, I don't even want to answer that right now because it's going to be an issue. It's like, dude, just answer the phone. It's like these conversations don't need to be like that, because I think that's why a lot of people like working with us, is because I'll answer the phone and I'm like, hey, what's going on? If there's an issue, all right, let me see when we can go back over there and fix it. It's not it's never like, oh, I'm trying to avoid this. And the crazy thing is that we've worked with other people that do try to avoid that. And then every time you have these conversations, it's always excuse, excuse, excuse instead of, all right, let me just go take care of this and make sure everything is good.
Yeah, is when you have more of the conversations, whether you're leading or you're the recipient of the conversation of these um, the things that need to be talked about, right? Whether it causes or conflict or to avoid future conflict, you find it's so much easier to just say, yeah, you're right. Um, my bad. All right, what's next? What can we do to avoid this happening again? What can I do to be better? What am I missing? Hey, you told me already. You're right. I keep missing it. What do you do to make sure you're not missing it? Right? Like that's what ends up happening through some of these when you get so used to working through issues and not viewing it as an attack rather than a moment to build. It does get easier, and you do have conversations like that, and they can go really well. Um, they can go really well. I like you, like Daniel, like you said, right? Like a couple projects not going so well, and every time the phone rings and says name on it, you answer it, and it's always something wrong. And then that last time, like one of the recent projects, phone rang, and I looked at it, I was like, now what? Right? And it was nothing bad that we did, our guys did. It was like the whole scheduling thing and back and forth and with the client and them just not holding up their end, right? So I was like, all right, maybe I'm overstepping by saying this is unacceptable, Mr. and Mrs. Client. We've already had this conversation. Get a phone call. It's like they said thank you. They loved everything. Everything looks great. And it's like,
Well, you just had a good point right there too. Sometimes it's not always, leadership going down. It's leadership looking at clients and having those conversations too. It's not, I mean, up till this point, we've been kind of focused one way, but it's also that way as well when it's difficult conversations with the clients when you're like, listen, we agreed to do this project. We laid it out like this. You're not doing your end of the deal.
right. And maybe not say like you're not doing the end of the deal. I forget how I put it on there. I just, I mean, I kind of did it like that, but it's like, if there was something that was misunderstood, please let me know where that disconnect happened so that way we can find some resolve now. Um, I'm not always the best with words and not always the best with trying to be nice about an approach, but pretty good at throwing it in there. Like, look, boom, this is everything on the table, and then reeling it back in with let's move forward together and find some resolve. Where
Right.
are you at? This is where I'm at. Where are you at?
Like
And then
we're
meet in
we're
the
problem
middle.
solvers. Let's solve this problem.
Yeah. And sometimes it works out like that. Sometimes it don't. Sometimes you just have the look. I avoided some conflict. I'm just gonna say it. Last week, I walked away from a small project, not something that I don't even know if I've ever really done that. But there was a I went through a lot of steps with this lady to get all the ducks in a row and said this is our process. And then soon as she said, okay, yeah, let's go. Like
It
within
was downhill from
hours,
there.
how come you're not here yet? How come when are you gonna come over? Where are you at? And then it was like,
This was a podcast that we did a few weeks ago with saying no to these kind of
yeah, and
things.
you know what? Yes, you're right. It was shortly after that, and I didn't think I was gonna have to exercise that muscle that quick, but
Jeremy
I
says you have to also be able to talk to people and communicate. Project managers, job bosses, homeowners, all it takes is one bad conversation to offend someone or rub them the wrong way, which can relate to less jobs in the future.
yep, yep. Or it takes the wrong person in the crew to be the point of contact. Um, And I think that that's where me and this lady had some disconnect, right? Like she needed something done pretty quick. I was willing to help her out, but she just didn't understand that when she approved
There's
it,
a
I had to,
process.
yeah, when she approved it, I had to find the time in the schedule that allows, but I was going to get to it as soon as possible. She thought if she approved it at 9 p.m. the night before,
You'll be there at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
yeah, and it was like, hold on. Like, no, like, so I had to call her and talk to her. And I was like, she's like, you said you'd be here by 9. I was like, no, no. We talked and said that when I find a day, I can wait until 9 a.m. to give you time to get your day started. Well, that's not what you said. I'm like, it literally says it right here too in the email. I'm so sorry. I don't think that I'm the right person for you, and I think we're gonna have to separate paths here. I do apologize, and I felt bad. She's like, I got to start all over again. I was like, I don't think it's gonna work out. Like you have a level of expectations that I cannot conform to, and I would just prefer not to have a relationship that's built on you already being unhappy with our services.
Yeah.
So she was taking out on me that her bad experiences with the other installers is what it was.
Jeremy says you remember when you joked with a bank manager. She wanted us off the job site, so we left and went to B-Dubs. I do remember that. I just got to the job.
Dude, it was a joke too. I know, dude. That was a joke too. It was like, ugh, why do these guys keep disappearing? I said, are they really that lazy? Like every time all they had to do was move stuff in front of us. They went to another project, came back. Um, Somebody didn't like that joke, even though they laughed at it. You know, and you're right. That was a conversation, and I got us booted from a project. And we were just helping somebody. We were helping a friend of ours. It wasn't even like we were just there helping. It wasn't anything other than that. And yeah, it was the B Dubs is probably the better choice anyway.
Yeah. So I to wrap things up, I think what people need to realize is that leadership isn't a popularity contest either, right? It's when you are a leader, it's your job to run towards that conflict and then start looking at some resolve right away. Um, and sometimes that isn't the conversation right away. It's looking at everything from different perspectives and going about the right way to solve things and letting people know that, I'm this conversation may not go the way that you think it was going to go, but it's going to be a conversation nonetheless.
Yeah, and to add on to what you just said about the leadership, it's sometimes it's a group coming up to you because they view you as a leader to speak for them, right? And it's a collective, and sometimes you have to find a way to bring their points to the surface to find resolve as well, even if they're not willing to say it themselves or
I mean,
they just don't know how or want to
it's the
avoid the
same
conflict.
way when I teach classes, I go in there and I'm like, I don't know everything. So if you know a better way, let me know. And that's why we have these conversations. It's not just my way or the highway for the most part. I mean, sometimes it's gonna be like that. But for the most part, like it's a collective. So we're not just here. I mean, just all the things that can happen when you try to avoid it, it just becomes too costly. I mean, profit loss, employee retention,
Right?
clients getting angry. It's the list goes on and on. And that's why, everyone should be looking into a trade tap for training because the more professional you can make yourself, the better off you're going to be in the long run too. And prepare yourselves for I want to think that everyone who starts in a trade is looking eventually for a leadership position. And, we talk about all the time how that's really some people will just stay in a position because that's all they're ever meant to do. But if you strive for that leadership position, that's what you need to do, and just learn from all of our mistakes that we talk about on here, um, so you can be ready for these conversations when they come up.
And if you're a rip the band-aid off type of person, don't change for anybody, but put some thought into which direction you're ripping that band-aid. That's really all I can say is put some thought into it.
But we appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Boom,
Subscribe
boom.
and thumbs down everything, whatever. Engagement's engagement, right? Let us know what we can do better. Again, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So we appreciate everyone joining us.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.